11 weeks old. Now, they believe that they are playing. Actually, what they're doing, they're starting to be trained. And I've been working with these dogs since they were about 5 weeks old. When I mean working, I don't mean formally. I mean just encouraging them to stay with me, to keep their eyes on me, to watch me. I need to be the focus of their life if I'm going to train them into being good working dogs of the future. So they're hunting already. You'll notice at this age, 11 weeks, their noses are on the ground. They're already starting to take on scent and to understand what scent means. But they're still focused on me. As soon as they get a little bit too far away from me, I call them back and they come back. We take this in stages. What training is all about is development in stages. It's about repetition. It's about the dog working for you rather than working for itself. Now these little dogs, obviously, allowed to run riot would be a nightmare in the future. But as you can see, no matter what I'm doing, I'm taking no notice of them really. They're not getting too far away. As soon as they do, they're on their way back. What I also start to do, even at this age, you may have noticed I'm walking in a zigzag pattern. The reason I'm doing that is that we want the spaniel to quarter our ground in front of us. That means he doesn't run in straight lines, he actually runs quartering the ground, as you'll see with the next dog I'm going to get out. And the purpose of that is he doesn't miss ground, he doesn't miss game. So if there's a rabbit or a pheasant or anything on the ground, that will be found, flushed into the air and picked up. Years ago, the spaniels weren't required to retrieve, but nowadays they do those jobs when required. So we work with them very steadily, they work with us to become good working gun dogs. Now the first thing that I tend to teach dogs, as you've seen with the puppies and him, is that they come back. And every time I call them, they come back. That's pretty essential, isn't it? Even if it's a pet dog or a family dog, we want that dog to come back to us every time we call it, without fail. The other thing we need to do is to get our dogs to stop. Working gun dogs need to, you've seen this morning with the retrievers, need to be stopped at distance, close to, so that you're actually managing them and controlling what they're doing. So one of the second things I teach the dog is to stop. I do that by calling him in. I stop him with a hand. I'll also stop him with a whistle. Eventually we stop with a gun. And also they'll be trained so that when something flies into the air, they'll sit and stop for that as well. So he'll stop close by me. Will he stop a little bit further away? Forward. Forward. Come. Stop. So will he stop without the whistle? Because when you think about it, if he's 400 yards away, he might not be able to hear me. But if he looks at me, so we'll know he'll stop to hand signal, he'll stop to whistle. So these are the stages that we're going to work through. I'll very quickly stop to another dog that's a little bit further on in her training, so you can see the next steps. So I think you'd have to agree, he's a pretty happy fella, isn't he? He's not feeling oppressed, he's not feeling pushed around. The skill of my job is to make sure all of that natural stuff keeps coming through. Gently and slowly. These dogs have got 10 years work in them. There's no need to rush, there really isn't. Now again, she's further on than the dog we just saw, so if I took the whistle, she'll stop. Hand signal, she'll stop. And the other thing that we've taught her is if anything moves in front of her, she will actually stop. Now, you notice she's already looking at me, she knows what's coming next, little so-and-so. Get on, here. So basically, if what I'm about to throw was a rabbit or a pheasant, I'm expecting her to stop dead. What I don't do is send the dog every time. Very often I'll go and get the dummy myself. I'll move my hand, you notice she was ready to go, but she checks herself. And very often call the dog off a bit, call it back to me. That worked, didn't it? Yeah. So you notice the speed and the pace, straight out, straight back. Very happy, look at the smile on her face. Get on. Go. Now the other thing, I mentioned good girl. The other thing that we teach the dogs to do, and I genuinely would say this to you, ladies and gentlemen, I haven't yet done this with this dog. You've seen some of the retrievers working on what's called blind retrieves. This is birds that have been shot that they haven't seen. You might get to the end of a drive, a gun will say, excuse me, could you try your dog? I've got a pheasant down near those cars over there. I'm not quite sure where it is. Could you see if your dog can pick it for me? So the dog's going to be sent on that retrieve with no knowledge where it is. And the only reason that dog's going to run in a straight line is because we've taught it to trust us. Fetch means that there's something to fetch. We teach that, first of all, by doing what's called a memory retrieve. So we just drop the dummy. Sit, 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 sit. Very come, very come, very come, very come, very come, very come. Sit. And basically we extend that miles into the distance till they're used to going back every time. And with repetition, what then happens is I send her back like that, even though she doesn't remember the dummy, she would actually go find and go looking for it because she's learnt to. Again, we've looked at some of the issues about the training, so therefore I expect this dog to be able to stop, to be able to do anything I really tell her now, an experienced dog of a couple of years in the field. She's also spent the summer having babies, so if she looks a bit chubby, then that would explain it. So basically, she's working away, working in front of me. I'm giving her no commands. Wherever I walk, she will hunt in front of me. If I ignore her and turn and walk back again, you'll notice she immediately adjusts and works in front of me again. Hey! She's definitely convinced there's a pheasant in that pen, isn't she? There's no doubt about it. Good girl. So without any commands, you'll notice she's only working in a certain distance from me, both side to side and in the front of me. What we don't want is a dog that's working hundreds of yards from us, putting birds up where nobody can shoot them. Not helpful at all. So we simply turn around. Good girl. So as you can see, she stops, does what she's told, dummy into that pen over there. But the other thing, similar to you saw with the retrievers, we may have two birds down. We need to decide which of those dummies is picked first. The one there may be running away, that might be dead. We have an absolute duty to get any bird into the bag as quickly as possible to avoid any suffering. That's that. Amy, that's that. Over. 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 Come on. So when she's picked the right one that we've asked her to do, because we've taught the dogs the difference between left and right, we can stop it at a distance, we can send it to our right, we can send it to our left. And now we'll see if she can find that dummy for us. Lost. When her nose pulls on it, that she's going to pick it. Sit. I also expect her to hold that bird until I take it off of her. I don't expect her to spit it out, to run away with it, and God forbid that she don't go and eat it. If I'm doing something else, if I'm changing the barrels of my gun, if I'm trying to sort another dog out, I expect her to sit there calmly and quietly with the pheasant in her mouth. If it is an injured bird, she puts it down, it'll run off, we might lose it. So she sits there and does what she's told until I take it off. Here. Dogs are taught to sit very still. A lot of spaniels won't. I insist upon it. I genuinely think that if I was to leave that dog for an hour and come back in, she'd still be sat there. Don't worry.